My name's Justin Weatherby, representative over here at Build Ops. Been in the industry a long, long time. Today we're going to be talking about our five unique sales strategies. We're going to be given some real life examples of those strategies, tips on how to customize your strategies for your customer and your industry, and learning on how to, turn challenges into winning outcomes. So we mentioned before, my background's in construction. I've been a field superintendent, project manager, estimator, and I've been in the construction technology industry for the better part of a decade now. Whenever I got into the business, kind of dating myself here, but mobile apps weren't even a thing. So definitely seen this come a long way over the last 10 years. But the reason why y'all showed up today wasn't to hear me talk. I want to go ahead and introduce Woody Woodall. Woody, for the folks who don't know you, for the uninformed, very few, could you give a little bit of background? Because I think it's obviously huge to our topic today.
Sure. I started in the industry as an apprentice, served my time through Steamfitters Local 602, was an instructor at our local training center for a number of years, been in the industry for 48 plus years, was very fortunate to serve on a lot of local committees and national boards. I'm very proud that I was the national chairman of the Mechanical Service Contractors of America, and I received the Spence O'Brien Award, which is just a great honor, a great honor. I've seen a lot of things that work, and I've seen a lot of things that don't. I've had the honor of working with some of the best and brightest in the industry, and by my time spent with them, uh, we've got some unique perspectives, and I think we'll have a lot of fun with this particular subject matter today, Justin.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it, Woody. Thank you so much. It's always an amazing opportunity to get to sit with you and talk to the folks and bring this information to them. That said, guys, this isn't like your typical webinar. I mean, it's typical for us, but maybe not the other ones that you sit in. We want to keep this very, very interactive. So number one, we're gonna have some poll questions that we throw up. So anytime I put a poll question up there, answer it quick. So that way I can, share those results with everybody, and we sort of talk to those points and move on. Also, if you notice, there's a Q&A section down in the bottom of your Zoom controls. We want you asking questions, giving comments. Tell us that we're messing up. Tell us that you love whatever it is that we're talking about. We want to keep this very interactive, so make sure you use that Q&A function down here at the bottom. Randall already popped in there and said hi. Randall, appreciate you hopping in there for us. And then also kind of getting into the first part of this, we got a couple questions we want to throw out there for you guys. We want to know, who's in the room today, right? What trades are being represented? So if you guys see that pop up on your screen, go ahead and um, go ahead and get that answered. Also, there's a second question in there. We want to know if you guys are using a CRM system today, customer resource management system, to track your customers, your opportunities, because that's a big part of keeping your sales team organized. And last but not least, what are you doing to track your sales team's performance? Some folks are using software today, other folks aren't. Kind of want to see where you all fall in there. Looks like we're getting a lot of these questions answered pretty quick. So if you see those popped up, go ahead and grab your mouse, give us a couple answers, and what we'll do, looks like just about everybody's answered. So what we'll do is we'll wrap this poll up, and I want to share the results. And what is, I'm kind of walking through this. Obviously we got a ton of folks from the HVAC mechanical side, also well represented with plumbing and electrical. There are quite a few folks ended up in that other bucket. If you ended up in that other bucket, again, use that Q&A section down below. Let us know what that other is. So that way we don't put you in the other bucket on the next webinar. We can make sure we're getting you guys represented, because we got 28% of folks who ended up in that other bucket. Rolling down the page a little bit, about half the folks are using a CRM, half the folks aren't, and the ones that aren't considering it. And then, what's super important to folks, real-time dashboards, obviously having that periodic review with the team. So we really appreciate those questions, getting those questions answered for us. And we'll dive into the topics today, and I'll turn it over to Woody in just a second. But Woody, I just wanted to kind of call out a couple of the folks in the other bucket. Our roofing folks, interior, mechanical, not HVAC. Sorry about that, Steve. We know the difference. And Daniela looks like is doing some additional like janitorial services. So really appreciate everybody on the call and using that Q&A section. But Woody, talk a little bit about tackling some of those tough sales.
You know, we all come across unusual situations, different scenarios that challenge us to be better, challenge us to think outside the box and to focus in on what people are really looking for, and that's great service. And I think this type of this particular webinar is going to fit fine for just about everybody that's on the call, whether you're doing general construction, HVAC, plumbing, whatever it might be, because we all run into the same types of things. We run into clients that have some objections. We run into clients that sometimes won't return calls, or we can't get to the decision maker, or we can't talk to the person that we really want to talk to for one reason or another. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of those unique situations today and what's going on. At the end of the day, uh, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's an old saying in the sales industry, and that's one of the things we have to keep in mind as we run into these unique situations, because from time to time, uh, just sharing or at least letting the client know that you care about their challenges, their issues, and what they're up against makes a world of difference as to whether you're going to get in touch with that right person or not going to get in touch with that right person, Justin.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to know who our target audience is. Make sure that we're getting in front of the right people and we're giving them giving the proper pitch to the proper proper people.
Right. Absolutely. We've all been baffled with various challenges as sales folks, or just operational people as well, because operational people sometimes have a hard time reaching out, getting the right person. You know, there's some unique things that happen from time to time. A different type of customer, a different type of approach that a customer might have towards the business and what they're trying to do. Maybe we're trying to get into a new industry, so that's new to us as we move forward. And then we'll run into unusual specifications, scope issues, things that we haven't seen, or things that are new or unique in the industry, whatever our industry might be. And then we run into those unusual ways for a job to be awarded, and that's as big a challenge as anything. Understanding what the bid process is and how that decision is going to be made, and so that's one of the big things we have to make sure that we are able to address all four of those specific items as we're moving forward. We need to help our salespeople and our operations people be able to address all of those issues as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We really got to work as a team, bring all of the knowledge to the table so that we're sharing that tribal knowledge amongst the team and
Yeah,
leveling everybody up.
absolutely, absolutely, Justin. So, how will this job be awarded? That should be one of the first and foremost questions that our sales team or our operations team or whoever is trying to decide or trying to understand. So nobody knows that but our clients. So when we're trying to talk to our clients, we need to find out, how do they make these decisions? What are they basing these decisions on? Do they want something? Do they want a company that is cheap? Do they want a company that's value focused? Do they want somebody that's going to be have specific talents that they haven't seen many contractors have? So it's important for us to make sure that we know what that process is. Are we talking to the person that's actually going to be making that decision? Or is it a group of people that are going to make that decision? Or is this person actually just going to carry this information upstream to somebody else? It's important for us to understand all of that very early on in the process. We find these answers to these questions from day one. We've got to find it out early, learn about their companies. We need to do the research. If we're first timers with this company, we need to know how they're doing, what they're doing, what their focus is, what are some of their challenges. Find out what's most important to them, of course, and then listen closely to uncover some of those past challenges that they've had. If we can uncover some of those past challenges and overcome that pain for them or help them overcome that pain, now all of a sudden they're going to make that decision not just on price, but they're going to make that decision on value and what we uniquely bring to the table as a contractor in any trade.
Yeah, and we'll get more into it about, always selling, not necessarily the product, but the value that you're bringing to the customer. So down in the Q&A section, if you guys wouldn't mind, we run into different past challenges that our customers have had from other vendors. I'm curious, use that Q&A section and throw in a couple examples. When you've been talking to your customers, what sort of challenges have they reported back to you? Throw a couple examples in that Q&A section. We'll share them with the team, because sometimes we also kind of need to lead the horse towards the water, right? And if there are common challenges that we see over and over again, we could kind of bring those up to the customer, because when I ask them, they might not have had that challenge at the top of their head, but when I sort of reminded them about that, um, then it kind of gets the gears turning in their head.
Yeah,
Bradley's got a great one in here. Timeliness to respond to service, right? That's a big one. Ashton, right along the same lines. Poor follow up or follow through. Randall, a big one, right? And this is Woody. This is something you and I know are real passionate about. But being able to talk to the same person, right? Having your rep that you're always talking to, not having to re-explain yourself every single time. We're seeing reoccurring themes here. Scheduling capacity from Alan, not his customers, but you know, um, you know, uh, folks that he's talked to have run into that with other vendors. Lead times changing. That's the big one, right? If you tell them it's going to be 3 weeks, um, they're going to expect that thing in 3 weeks, and if you're not sure, don't give them those timelines, right? Under promise and over deliver with your timeline. So that was a great one from Caesar. And Randall kind of seconds that, seeing the same technician out there on site. So I think those are all really good points. Woody, does any of those kind of stick out to you on ones that you've run into yourself?
absolutely. Um, the one that the guys brought up about having the same person at the site on a regular basis. It's imperative that we do everything we can to make sure it's the same person that shows up there, gets to know that building, understands the equipment, they hear the equipment and I know this may sound silly, but when a technician walks into a machine room and hears a piece of equipment, he can tell whether it's working properly or not working properly. And you get used to those sounds. You show up the next month and it's a completely different sound. There may be a bearing issue, whatever it could be. So having people that are there that have common knowledge of the building, the equipment, the people, where things are, all makes it easier for our clients, all of it.
Yep. And we're definitely here to talk, with Woody about, some of the things that he's seen in the industry. But this, some of these challenges kind of directly relate back to problems that, we're solving over here on the build op side of things. And, one huge one that we're solving for folks, especially around their service agreements, and it's been brought up a couple times, is, who is the preferred technician? Right? And which preferred technician should we send out there? So being able to record that information, I think, is huge. BuildOps is a great tool to allow you to record that information. So really appreciate the feedback from the entire team there.
And Justin, that kind of information that BuildOps gives us the opportunity to hold on to and to make sure it's memorialized for the entire team. That kind of information is true can truly be the difference between you guys being the greatest and the best and the favorite of a specific client versus somebody else. Because not everybody has that technology. We might assume they do, but they sure don't. They sure don't. So why it matters to understand the decision process is very simple. by understanding that decision process, we're able to customize and put together how we're going to go to market, how we're going to word our proposal, what we're going to do to get our foot in the door. When you know what the customer expects, you can do all sorts of wonderful things, and you can customize your proposal so that you're working with their folks, you understand exactly what's important to them. And again, we talked about it earlier, Justin, the importance of being able to physically address each of their challenges and specifically address who is the who are those decision makers, and what are their experiences, and is most important to them. Customize our response. We talked about that. Address the challenges ahead. Identify the parts of the scope to focus on, because all customers are different. Some clients are really focused in on safety. Some are focused in on the technology. Some are focused in on the focus and the training that your people have. So it's better to know what's important to them and be able to handle and make sure that we customize our proposal after that type of stuff. And more than anything, we're trying to help them understand how best to invest more time in the future, what they're going to try to get accomplished, and how are they going to get that accomplished with a great partner.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that's a great point, right? We need to customize our responses to our customers, to their needs, because too often we get into a cadence, with our elevator pitch. And while we need those, those elevator pitches, in our pocket, while we can pull those out quickly, we also need to be able to tailor those to the specific pain points that our customers expressing. So making sure that we aren't just talking to hear ourselves talk, but talking to bring value to the customer and their specific issues that they might be having.
yep, absolutely.
Randall's got
So
a quick question, Woody,
yeah,
and I think maybe other people have got this question. An elevator pitch. Woody, would you care to explain what an elevator pitch is, and how folks, should be utilizing that?
sure. So a lot of folks call it different things. Elevator speech is one way. 3-minute commercials. I've heard it called that. I've heard it called electronic business card. Lots of different things. But really, more than anything, the elevator speech in a very short period of time. Uh, and the idea behind it, an elevator speech, is to get the client enticed. You want them to ask you more questions about your company. But we're just basically trying to tell them what we're famous for, what we're focused on, and what we do well, or what kind of business we're in, and what we're trying to get accomplished. So it's a great tool to have. Most great, most good salespeople have 3 or 4 different elevator speeches, depending on who they're talking to, and they can interchange those elevator speeches as they go. Justin.
Yeah, no, that's well explained. Basically, you hop into an elevator with somebody, you only got that time between now when those doors close and when they open on the next floor. And if you need to be able to kind of explain what you guys do and what value that you all bring in a concise manner. A good example for Build Ops is, we're the number one commercial field service and project management tool. Also incorporating the CRM and the pre-sales funnels and opportunity tracking as well. And that just quick 30 seconds or so tells a lot in our example and my example what build ops does,
Right.
and why we should be conversing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to share a little quick case study. This happened in a pre in my previous life when I was a younger guy. We attended a pre-conference with a new client, pretty big hitter that was coming to our area. Um, we asked all sorts of questions. We wanted to try to understand what was the customer concerned about, what their focus was about, and how we could best match and help them with what they needed to have done. We learned a few interesting things. We found out that they were very anxious about coming into a new geographic area without knowing anybody. Um, it just happened to work that we had a little game plan for that. We also found out that they took a huge amount of pride in their safety and efficiency that they used in their plants, and they they wanted to make sure whoever their partner was moving forward was a safe, focused company. And they were looking for a contractor who valued innovation and was forward thinking, looking for ways to do things better, quicker, faster, smarter all the time. And by doing that, uh, we were able, I think, to get a little edge when it came to putting our proposals together and what we had to do.
Yeah, definitely. Being able to get that little bit of extra information will give you an advantage over your competition. I'm curious again, utilizing that QA function down at the bottom. Let me know some of the questions that you all have asked to help uncover the value that you can drive with your customer, right? They can be generic, it can be open-ended stuff. But I'm just curious, from the folks that are in attendance today, grab your keyboard and throw something in the Q&A section. What type of questions are you asking folks out there, to be able to get that little bit of extra insight, that will give you an advantage over your customer? I mean, one generic one, and what you had talked about it on a previous slide, is how are you guys going about making this decision? Right? Is it a committee? Is
Exactly.
there one person? Do you guys have a scorecard? Can I get a copy of can I get a copy of that scorecard? What's the
Absolutely.
timeline look like? What's your budget? Things like that.
Right.
And we got a few of them rolling into the chat here as well. One really broad one that Dave brings up that I actually really like is, how can we meet your needs? What are your sort of requirements for this project, right? I think
Sure.
that's kind of what Dave is getting at there. Yeah, Ben wants to know who they've been using in the past, right? And how's that been working out?
Right.
That's in our industry, in my industry, in the construction software space, if I know what products you're using today, I already know what your pains are. So, I think that's a great one. Um, and then, Randall is getting into it. Hey, what's the most important thing for you, with your relationship with your contractor? And they'll tell
Right.
you, right? Is it talking to the same person? Is it having the same tech out there? Is it,
Yeah.
is it are they price sensitive? Do they need budgeting? And, what type of services do they all need? And then obviously Caesar wants to know, if they're satisfied with their current contractor, their current, preventative maintenance contractor. And then, Caesar, on top of that, we want to kind of dive in and understand, based on the earlier questions that the team rolled out, that the audience rolled out, as far as digging in to understand where the shortcomings of their previous contractor
Right.
might be, right? We've said this a couple times. Who are you getting the same technician? Are you
Yeah.
having to re-explain yourself every time you call in? Are what's their sort of, service level agreement? Are they getting out to you guys in 24 or 48 hours, whatever it
Right.
happens to be? So really appreciate everybody chiming in there.
Yeah. And so when you take a look at when we finished, doing our discovery, trying to understand what the client really wanted and what they needed from all of us, we our proposal sort of looked like this. We sort of our presentation centered heavily around safety. As a matter of fact, we had our prefab facility there. We had our technicians. We had our foremen, superintendents. Everybody was there in that meeting. But the safety officer, because they were so concerned about safety, the safety officer probably ran about 60% of the show. He spoke about what he was focused on and what the company was focused on, because we had learned that from our original discussion with them. We highlighted our prefab facilities because we thought we were state of the art. In fact, we were state of the art. And we shared with the client the importance of innovation and how we're able to do things quicker, better, smarter, faster, and how that benefits the client. And then we were able to leverage our networking capability throughout the country with the contractor that they were very comfortable with, and we partnered with them. They had a small piece of the job. They sent some people out to work with us, and quite honestly, it turned out to be a tremendous win for us, and we actually ended up working with this particular manufacturer for another 15 years after we finished, and we got not only the job, but we got their maintenance contract for the next 20 years. And so all of that came from just a couple of things: understanding what the client was trying to find out, focusing in on their concerns, and making sure that we hit and highlighted all of the things that were concerns of theirs. And it worked tremendously for us at that time.
Yeah, and when we're getting that information, we want a good place to document that. And I'm curious,
Amen.
down if you guys could, what are you using today? Right? It's we're tracking down these opportunities. We're getting this paper out on the street. What are you guys using today to follow up on that? Is it Excel? Is it do you guys have some sort of software that you have in place? What's the software called? I'm curious. Are you guys is every person kind of in their own silo? Is this information centralized? And so, taking a quick look here at the build op side of things, we can see our quotes and what their status is in. We can also see, who the sales rep is, so we can start doing reporting. When was it created? And also, when is it due? Right? When do we need to get this quote out here to have a chance to win that job? Now, if I pop into, one of our existing quotes, another big thing is keeping track of all the different revisions, because this Woody was talking about understanding the scope and understanding what that scope looks like. And it's huge as that scope evolves and change during that bidding process to be able to track multiple revisions on the on the same quote. Andrew, he's got a software in place. Patrick uses reminders. Alan, Monday.com. Randall's got some spreadsheets going on. Caleb just purchased Build Ops, so we're helping him out with that. So Caleb, we'd love to know how that's going with you guys, and obviously we'll you and your team, we can kind of work on any questions that might pop up there. But Caleb, if you had any questions, I'd be happy to try to get those answered in here as well. Um, Rhonda's using Excel and OneNote, and basically what we see here over and over again, Woody, is they're using the standard tools. Right? When you and I were running work, once we finally got laptops out in the field, yeah, it's the same thing. We're running this stuff off Excel, and one thing that we're losing with like a Monday.com or an Excel, these are generic platforms
Right.
for generic data capture, which doesn't allow for a lot of automation or a lot of automation around the reporting. And kind of as we continue, we'll talk a little bit about, talk about those in some more detail. Thank you guys. Appreciate all the
Yeah.
insight.
So one of the unique things that can pop up for all of us is a different type of specification or scope that we've never seen before. It can be a true game changer. The most important thing we have to do is to fully understand the scope and specifications, especially as we're putting together our bids and our proposals. We're looking for anything that we can get that's going to give us that edge. I worked for a gentleman for a long, long time, and he had a motto. He said that every single job has a we can gain an edge on every single job, but we have to look at that job um, completely and utterly, because if we don't, we're going to lose that opportunity to have that edge. With that edge, you have an opportunity, a foot up on the competition, hopefully. And then we can, once you have that edge, then you can start to design what you have to do. The challenge, your edge can come from anywhere, a type of a piece of equipment, a specific subcontractor. It may not be something that's even in the mechanical field, but it's something that the client has seen at a trade show or something like that, that he's thought that could help his business. Could be a control, a certain specific type of control company that's got something new and innovative. Your goal is to articulate how you're going to meet those requirements and be a fruitful partner. Period. How are we going to be able to get everything put together for that client and make sure that that client it knows that we're on the same path together? to get this type of thing taken care of. Specs and scope are huge, as everybody knows that's in this industry. Uh, we've got to be able to identify all of that information. Add one little piece to that pain. If we can identify that additional pain, those additional pain points, that gives us a huge edge, number one. But number two, that gives us the opportunity to sort of flip the script a little bit. Instead of it being just a matter of dollars and cents, it's a matter of who's actually going to be driving the ship.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. You know, the spec and scope. A lot of times, if there's difference in price, a lot of times it's because the spec and scope aren't the same across multiple contractors. So we got to make sure that we're specing the right things, we're giving them the right scope, and we're leveraging, you know, that apples to oranges comparison sometimes, you know,
Absolutely.
to get some advantages because maybe we have services or equipment that we can offer that our competitors can't. So, you know, the old saying is you want to compare apples to apples. That's true unless you're the one slipping in the orange, right? And then so and that'll work in your benefit. So really
Yep.
appreciate those comments, Woody. Thank you.
Yep. Here's a little quick case study that we ran into. We had a client that he needed some confidence that we had the ability to integrate with their processes and team. Training on equipment was straightforward. Uh, Learning their team and processes, that was a bit of a challenge because of the diverse amount of different things that they did. The solution, we did some cross training and embedded our staff with their staff to foster that mutual understanding and to foster that confidence that the client should have in whoever their service provider is. Uh, by doing that, taking a little time, if we spent a little money to do that, we secured the job and took it further. We formed process improvement committees that were joint between our company and the client. Uh, we were always looking for new and different ways to do things better, to be innovative. We had regular meetings on at the client's facility, and we talked. We weren't afraid to talk about productivity and how doing something a little bit different or a little bit quirky might be the difference in moving forward the way they wanted to. And by better understanding their challenges, they came to better understand ours as well. And by being able to understand each other completely, it became a great partnership. It lasted for a long, long time. To this day, I still have friends working for that particular company that we get together on a regular basis, and that happened by working together, by focusing together on a mutual goal, and it just worked tremendously.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You know, again, going back to some of those principles of always pushing, also pushing that value all the time. And then, you know, when we're talking about, you know, selling, you know, to new industries and new companies, you know, it's, you know, favorite one of mine, the good, the bad, the ugly. Talk to me a little bit about that, Woody.
So that I think especially when you're making a decision, a team decision to actually step into a new industry or step into a new frame of work that you haven't done in the past. We always had the saying, we got to find out what the good, the bad, and the ugly is about all of it. And we had only way we do that is by reaching out to the industry, finding out what's going on with that industry, who's doing well, why are they doing well, who's doing poorly, why are they doing poorly, why is it better to work for X Y company in this specific industry than A B company in this particular industry. And what's the difference in that? So those are all of the things, all of the research things we need to make sure that we get into and try to understand the good, what works well for them and why. The important question is why. Why do these things work well, and why is this sort of the industry standard for this particular segment of work? The bad, what challenges do you need to address up front, and how do you overcome those challenges? Sometimes it makes sense just to walk away from a specific type of work because maybe we don't have the people that have been trained on this particular piece of equipment, or maybe the downside of that piece of working on these pieces of equipment can be detrimental to our company. For example, if we're doing work in mission critical areas and we let a data center go down for one reason or another, it could be a significant financial loss to our company for letting something like that happen. So it's important that we understand all of those types of things. And of course, the ugly, where do they need immediate help? What area do they have to have us there working with them on a regular basis? And how can we help leverage that type of that ugly portion of the industry to make us superstars as we move forward. We never, ever, 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 ever want any surprises. Uh, the worst thing that can happen is you get into a new segment or a new industry, and 6 months later go, why didn't we run into a something that we weren't anticipating? Why didn't we know that ahead of time? We probably didn't do our homework.
Yeah, agreed. And Dave brings up a great point here. It was something that we talked about just on the previous slide, but applies here as well. Sometimes the scope from the customer gets lost in translation, and this can be a huge problem. So asking the proper questions for
Yeah,
clarification is paramount. That's verbatim for Dave. So Dave, really appreciate you dropping that in there, making
yeah.
me sound real smart here. And when we're getting
Great
into
point.
those new industries, we gotta we've got to be able to measure what we're doing when we're getting in these new industries and even in our existing industries. But what I have one of my best friends is an executive in the automotive space. And we were having lunch the other day, and one thing he mentioned to me is like, Justin, I can't manage it if I can't measure. And so, what we're looking at here is a dashboard, and within build ops, these dashboards are customizable. But understanding, what's our close rate on this work? Is it worth going after? What's our profit margins after we win this type of work? Is it by work type? Is it by customer type? Is it by location? Is it by sales rep? Is it geographic? And these are just examples of types of reporting that we can pull in build ops that really allows your business to hone in on what's most valuable, to what work provides the most value to your business.
Yeah, but you know what, Justin? Well said as far as measuring what's going on. But the other part of it too is if you can't easily maintain that type of data, if you can't easily measure what you're doing, you're setting yourself up for failure, period.
Yeah, so I guess another great question for the team, kind of as we're rolling through this. Again, down at the bottom of your screen there, look for that Q&A section and throw some comments in here. But how often do you all go back and look at how you've performed historically on different types of work? How often do you do it? How do you do it? Can you do it today? I'd be interested to know what folks have available to them, what they've done in the past, and maybe even some stories on what information they've been able to glean off of that data. So throw that in here, and we'll be sure to talk about some of those examples as we're moving through this.
So this is a case study. We had made a decision some time ago to get into mission critical work. Uh, we designated a group, much like we did when we were looking at the new type of industry we were working in. We've talked about a little bit earlier, but we were designated a group to find out what the good, the bad, and the ugly was. The group uncovered uh, all sorts of information for us. Uh, they provided us with the type of information we needed to make the types of decisions that were going to have to be made to decide whether you're going to actually do this type of work or what. But we joined and became active with what we did a couple of things. So we joined and became active in the membership of 24/7, which was a local association that works in the mission critical industry. Um, we had our salespeople focus on helping. not selling. Selling took a back seat. We were looking for ways that we can help clients move through challenges. Sometimes we got a sale out of it. Many times we didn't. But what we did was we nurtured that relationship, that we were there to help and focus on how we could take care of their issues. We slowly became the contractor of choice in our geographic area. And the nice thing about that was, as new uh, mission critical companies came into that specific area, they were looking for the best and the brightest, and we sort of had a reputation. We had developed a reputation of being one of the better contractors there. So work naturally came in our direction, and then we positioned ourselves to become partners with many mission critical teams. Um, Name a big company and we probably work with them. It's important to have that reputation of being a helpful contractor, a partner, a true consultant. And that's the type of selling we want to do, is consultative selling. We don't want to have to rely on that low dollar all the time. If we ended up doing that, we would probably be out of business pretty quick. But that was a great case study that we had in the Washington D.C. area, and it was just a tremendous opportunity to grow and start a new segment of business, and it just worked out well for us.
Yeah, and doing it organically, there's something to be said about that, right? You can't just throw gasoline on the fire always. Sometimes it's a slow burn. And getting yourselves in the right rooms with the right people, in the right associations, and pretty soon they're going to start noticing you. Now, I mean, this is way off topic, but as y'all can tell, I'm not the best looking guy, so I'm not going to come out there and wow the lady folks. So you got to kind of get in and give them the slow burn and make sure they see you at the places they want to be seen, etc. So same sort of thing when we're selling in, into our other verticals and our other markets. Are if you're part of their ecosystem, they're going to start seeing your name and start recognizing you and start talking to you at events. And it's that slow burn that really ends up paying off. Everybody wants the quick, easy win, or the quick, big win. But a lot of folks are overlooking the legwork that it takes to organically grow this thing from a grassroots level. And, it's, yeah, hell, it kind of goes into your next point here. Woody, help, not sell.
Yeah, yeah, that's sort of my motto whenever I'm working with a sales team or teaching a sales class or doing any of those types of things. We talk about helping people, not selling. We're not trying to sell anything. We're just trying to help them, and it sort of works its way, like you said earlier, Justin, organically. Folks want to be helped. They want somebody they can rely on. We in this particular situation, we had a salesperson that was working on chasing down a prospective urgent care uh, facility, and they had probably a dozen urgent care facilities throughout uh, our jurisdiction. Uh, she tried and tried to no avail. She was not able to get in touch with the right person. She wasn't able to uh, have those conversations she needed to have. Uh, but she did see that they were having a blood drive. And so she decided to go to the blood drive and donate blood, uh, just to see if they could maybe start developing a little bit of a relationship. While she was there, the AC was not working properly. The guy that was there working on the facility, she started asking the right questions, talking about how she might have a solution for some of those types of things. Uh, from there, she had the opportunity to uh, move up the ladder a little bit as far as decision makers were concerned. She finally got a face to face with the facility manager to talk about the challenges and her experience in their facility, what she ran up against, or what she ran into. In the end, she won the contract for all of their sites. It wasn't a decision made on low dollar. It was a decision made on value and the fact that she was willing to go the extra mile, literally give blood to be able to close the deal and help these urgent care centers out. It was It's one of my favorite sales stories of all time. But how far would you go to make a sale? Would you actually give blood? I don't know. You tell
Well,
me.
you know what? I would love to hear from. I'd love to hear from the group. Any other type of stories like that, going above and beyond. Something funny, something interesting. Throw if you guys have, an example of where you or one of your team members kind of went above and beyond. Similar, like like this person did, going in and giving blood. Obviously, we don't necessarily have to bleed for it every time, but it's the same example that we were talking about. Don't be afraid to be your customer's customer first,
Right?
right? That's a great way to get into their business is, partake in their business being a customer of theirs. Kind of similar here. So I'd love to hear any stories kind of from the industry, anything funny that I could share with the group. Throw it in the Q&A section. We'll kind of share that with the team. Any sort of extra mile steps that you guys took, or some unorthodox tactics that you guys used that ended up giving you the face time to be able to close the deal. I know one thing that we run into that I hear a lot of with our existing customers, like selling into our existing customer network, is understanding what they've spent on their equipment, for maintenance and or service over the past X amount of years.
Right.
And so what I'm doing here is I'm pulling up. It's funny. Uh, just by chance, you were talking about the emergency care facility. We got the surgery center here. We didn't plan that, but within each of our service locations, we're going to list and track all of the pieces of equipment or assets that are there on site. And so when it comes time, at the beginning of the year, and they have budget and they're looking to replace some equipment, we can now give value to them by letting them know the full service history around that particular piece of equipment, and give them an idea of what they've spent on that piece of equipment to maintain it. Because there's a certain economic scale that tips where it's now more reasonable to replace it than to continue to try to keep this old system up and running. Caleb's got a good one here. He couldn't get past the gatekeeper. Woody, there's always a gatekeeper that we're dealing with, trying to get past. Um, uh, so what he did is he mailed him a copy of a book, an industry book that he'd been reading, with a nice handwritten note in there. And those are the type of outreaches that mean a lot to our customers. One example,
Absolutely.
I had a great customer who was always a reference for me all the time. And this now is probably about 7 years ago. I sent him a bottle of his, favorite adult beverage. But it wasn't just I sent him a bottle of his favorite adult beverage. I got that bottle engraved with his company name. And our company name. And to this day, that bottle, I actually just talked to him a couple months ago. Even though that bottle's been empty for, 6.5 years, it still sits above his desk, on top above his bookshelf on his desk to
Yeah.
this day. And Caleb, with you sending them the book, another great thing. I bet every time he thinks of that book, he thinks of Caleb. Ryan's got another great point. It's as simple as just helping out, right? Bringing in their packages, just helping them out any way you can, and
Yeah.
showing that extra level of service that can get you past the gatekeeper and get you into the folks who are actually making the decision. So I think that's a great point.
And Justin, it's a matter of trying to sort of fit into their culture and fit them into your culture at the same time. If you're able to do that, it sort of helps out a lot. So we've all run into this last unique situation. Probably not that unique. What happens when people start to ghost you? You're leaving text messages, you're leaving emails, you're leaving phone numbers. You're doing everything short of smoke signals to try to get in touch with this person, and yet you don't get the opportunity. No returns. They don't answer any of your questions. Uh, this is what we did uh, to try to land, and it worked so well. We started doing it on a regular basis. But this is the first one we tried to do to land a pretty significant contract. Um, all of us find it pretty easy to ignore calls or emails or texts, but I can't think of one person that would ever get a FedEx package and just throw it away, not open it and look at it. And so what we decided to do was set up an opportunity for our salespeople to uh, send a FedEx package to a potential client. In this particular situation, we sent a FedEx package to the client with an article on EPA regs that were coming out. And we just shared with them, say, hey, we've been trying to get in touch with you. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to connect. I just thought you might be interested in these EPA regs coming up down the line for your facility. There'll be more information to come. Attached it to the packet was the note.
And we're gonna get and Woody, I love that idea, right? Of they're always gonna open that package. So talk a little bit about the note. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, we got it here.
we've been trying to reach out. We just simply put on that we've been trying to reach out to talk to you for a little while. Would love the opportunity to talk to you about your facility, what's going on. Hope you enjoyed the article about the new EPA regs. We will talk soon.
Yeah.
2 weeks
You know what?
later, 2 weeks
Oh,
later, we sent another one. And this time we said, hope you enjoyed the article. This time we sent him an article about rebates coming out in his geographic area. We said, hey, listen, we sent hope you enjoy the article about proposed new rebates. You know, we'll be sending something in another 2 weeks. And oh, by the way, this happened over a period of probably 6 weeks, 2 week period in between. The last thing we did was hope you enjoyed our correspondence the last few weeks. I would like to set up an opportunity to have a cup of coffee. By the way, when we sent this note there, we also sent him a company coffee mug with it. And we said, we'd like to have a cup of coffee with you. No pressure, just a chat to get to know each other. I'll call you tomorrow at 9 a.m. if that works to set up the meeting. It worked. We got the
oh,
meeting.
absolutely, Woody.
Had a cup of
Absolutely,
coffee with
that
the
thing
client,
worked.
talked about his challenges, talked about how we could work together to become a team. Um, and over a period of a couple of more weeks, we started out slow with one of his buildings, but we ended up with 12 of them eventually. It was a great win for us.
Yeah, and this is a tactic that we've seen pop up in the in the chat section today, right? Get out in front of them, send them something, send them
Right.
that they'll remember you by. And I know you got a real good one, as far as sending something memorable, Woody.
Well, we ended up trying to get to know a potential client, and we actually were able to. We found out that he was really into barbershop quartets. So we hired a barbershop quartet to deliver a singing telegram, and the words to it came up. We saw your building went down and cost you some cash. Uh, we have the answers for the future. You can bet your a dot dot. Call us. We care about your team. He loved it so much. He set up a meeting the next day, uh, and again, it was unique, different, outside the box a bit, but it worked out really well for us, and went from there. Uh, just a couple of takeaways, Justin. Getting that first call by thinking outside the box uh, isn't magic. It's just something. It's hard work. It's thinking about what you're trying to do, and it's not one person that has to do this. Anyone can do it. If you've got a sales team, that might be something you want to talk about at your sales meetings on a regular basis. Hey, anybody got any unique ways of handling something like this? And you can bring all of the team members can bring their challenges in and work on how you can best do that. Bring your team together and list your challenge clients. Like I just said, brainstorm how you're going to try to get things done and what you think might work for you. Uh, you know, the one thing I've found over my years in the industry is embrace the crazy and new. Try something different. If you've tried everything else, the traditional ways of selling and prospecting and all of those types of things, think outside the box. Come up with something new. It's important though, and Justin mentioned this earlier. We've got to measure our success. So we have to make sure that we track what worked, what didn't work, so that we're not doomed to make the same mistakes time and time again. And if you're able to do that, you're certainly going to be successful thinking outside the box and working together as a team and sort of cohesively bringing everybody together on.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, right? Never stop trying those unique sales techniques, right? We gotta stay we gotta stay fresh. We gotta try new ideas.
Right.
It's we gotta sort of set ourselves apart from the other folks out there. So curious, Woody, any last sort of comments or thoughts for the group? Also, if you guys have any other questions, throw those in the chat right now so we can get those answered. But kind of in closing, Woody, what do you have for the group today?
Well, it's my opinion that when you try new things, fun things outside the box a little bit, it sort of helps the entire team have more fun at what they're doing. Selling is a tough, tough job. We probably here know a good if we're great salespeople, we hear no 80% of the time. So if we're able to get something different that engages and invigorates and helps people moving forward, boy, that's the way we need to do it. That's the way we need to focus on how we become better, focused, and help people, not sell, help people. Period. And thank you very much, everybody. It was always a great time to spend time with Justin and talk about the challenges of the industry. So thank you very much.